a small biotech company just rocketed 385% in 2025. Most people missed it. The ones who didn't are asking one question. Is this just the beginning, or is it too late? Today, we're looking at Atai Life Sciences, probably the most interesting biotech company no one's heard of. This isn't a meme stock, this isn't AI hype, this is about psychedelics, and the one company that's racing to turn them into FDA-approved medicines. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what they're building, you'll see who's betting millions on them, and we'll talk about the risks and the opportunity. First of all, write this down. Problems that scale become fortunes that scale. Let's start with why this matters. 300 million people worldwide have depression. In the US alone, 21 million adults had at least one major depressive episode in 2021. And here's the problem. Traditional antidepressants fail 30 to 40% of the time. Circle that number. That's called treatment-resistant depression, or TRD for short. Now, if you are one of those that suffer from this, I want to stress that we are not advocating non-medical or illegal uses of the compounds that we'll discuss today. They do carry risk, and you should see a qualified professional for help, and I wish you well in your recovery. And of course, nothing in this video is financial advice. But millions of people cycle through Prozac, Zoloft, and Lexapro. Some even try electroshock therapy. Others try transcranial magnetic stimulation. Desperate measures for a desperate problem. The annual cost in the US alone exceeds $200 billion. But the human cost, you can't really put a number on that. Enter psychedelics. We're talking psilocybin, MDMA, DMT, 5-MeO-DMT, among many others. For years, scientists weren't allowed to study these drugs. Laws made research almost impossible, even though many believed these drugs could help. That's finally starting to change. New studies show that in a controlled medical setting, just one dose can lift depression within hours, and the effects can last for months. We're talking about a paradigm shift, a big change from the old medical model, where people cycle onto medication and stay on them for months. After decades of silence, the research is finally starting to catch up to the promise, and Atai is building an empire around it. Atai Life Sciences was founded in 2018. Its co-founder, Christian Angermayer, is a German billionaire. He's been evangelizing psychedelics for years after having had personal experiences with them, and he's backing psychedelics not just with his words, but with his wallet. He keeps buying more shares through his family office, Apiron, even as the stock price has been climbing. That tells me something about his belief. Apiron is an investment group that manages approximately $7 billion. Joining him is CEO Dr. Srinivas Rao, who comes from GlaxoSmithKline, where he was VP of research. This isn't a guy chasing hype. He left Big Pharma to build something important. Now here's what makes Atai different. They're not betting everything on one drug. They're building a platform, investigating multiple drugs at once. Think of it like this. Most biotech companies have one player. Atai is building an entire team. They also invest strategically in other companies like Beckley Psytech and Compass Pathways. And here's the big recent news. They're acquiring Beckley Psytech outright. We'll cover what Beckley's been doing later in the video. For now, we just note that the deal closes in Q4 2025, so around about now. And when that happens, Atai becomes basically the largest pure-play psychedelic mental health company in the world. One platform, multiple shots on goal, that's the strategy. Now let's talk about the drugs themselves. As mentioned, Atai has 3 wholly owned programs that are in phase 2 clinical trials. Usually a company has 3 phases of trials for any particular drug or treatment, and then they submit an application for approval to the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration of the US. Let's start with the star of the show, BPL-003, which I'm just going to call BPL. Now, BPL is an intranasal 5-MeO-DMT. It targets TRD, treatment-resistant depression. Remember, that's where a person with depression has tried everything to combat it, but unfortunately nothing's worked. 5-MeO-DMT originally comes from the Sonoran desert toad, but Atai synthesizes it in a lab now. This makes it more stable and measurable than the stuff you find in nature. And here's why the drug matters. Duration. A 5-MeO-DMT trip is short and intense. It lasts just 15 to 30 minutes, that's it. Now, shorter treatment time means that it's easier to scale, lower cost per patient, basically better economics. Now, to save you from having to read all of the clinical trial data, I've done that and I'm going to summarize it for you now. In July 2025, BPL crushed its phase 2B trial. Phase 2B is one of the checkpoints within the second of 3 phases. BPL showed rapid antidepressant effects, durable results, and long-lasting, just from 1 dose. Then, in September, they released even more data. They said, what if we give patients 2 doses, spaced out over 2 weeks? Well, guess what? A 2-dose regimen showed even better outcomes. Patients saw clinically meaningful drops in their depression scores, and those effects lasted for up to 3 months. Like I said earlier, this is a paradigm shift, a total change to the way that antidepressants normally work. And thankfully, the safety profile came back clean, so there were no major red flags. Now, this second study was a small study with just 13 patients. So all eyes are going to be on the phase 3 trial, which will have many, many more participants. And then, in October 2025, something huge happened. The FDA granted BPL something called Breakthrough Therapy Designation. This is massive, and let me explain why. Breakthrough Therapy Designation is reserved for drugs treating serious conditions where early evidence shows that the drug may be substantially better than existing treatments. Now, the FDA only grants this to a select few drugs. What it means is more intensive FDA guidance, speeded up development, faster review. And it doesn't mean the drug will get approved, but it makes it easier and more likely to get approved, in my view. Atai is now among a very small group of mental health companies with this designation. The CEO Srinivas Rao said they're well positioned for the phase 3 trials, which are expected to start in Q2 2026. This designation validates the strength of their clinical data so far, and it could shave months, maybe years, off the approval timeline. Now, what Atai will be doing is meeting with the FDA, if it hasn't done so already, at the end of its phase 2 trials, and that meeting will determine some of the phase 3 trial design parameters. In other words, the doses to be given, how the results will be obtained, over what time frame, things of that nature. Remember, phase 3 is the final trial before a potential approval. It's the last major hurdle. So if you're watching this video in October 2025, you've come at a pretty critical time for the company. And if that wasn't enough, Atai has a second drug in the pipeline called VLS-01 that also treats treatment-resistant depression. This is DMT delivered as what they call a buccal film. It's a thing that you place in your cheek and it dissolves. So it's fast acting, it absorbs into the body better than if it was swallowed and absorbed by the gut. VLS-01 is essentially the active ingredient in ayahuasca. It produces intense but short psychedelic experiences. Atai's version of this is designed to fit neatly into a 2-hour psychiatry session, which is a standard medical time frame. And again, to save you the time of trawling through everything, just know that the key point is that they started their phase 2 trial in early 2025, and we expect results from this trial to come out in the second half of 2026. The third drug in the lineup is called EMP-01. And guys, remember, each new drug that they're testing is another shot on goal. If one of them fails, they still have a chance with the others. EMP-01 is R-MDMA for social anxiety disorder this time, so a different indication entirely to treatment-resistant depression. R-MDMA is basically MDMA or ecstasy, the party drug, but there's a bit of a twist. The R here just means that it's not the whole molecule, it's only part of it. Atai has isolated one part of this molecule that has a different effect profile from your average street MDMA. The phase 1 trial showed that it's more similar to classical psychedelics than to rave dose ecstasy. They dosed the first patient in their phase 2 back in Q1 2025. And this is a trial that's ongoing, so we have the results to look forward to. If the results are good, I think the market will probably respond well. If not, well, you guessed it, the market probably won't be happy. But we'll talk more about how I assess risks and opportunities for my portfolio later in the video. Now, we've discussed the main 3 drugs that they're looking at, but there's a special bonus here, because there's even more in the Atai pipeline. They're also developing something seriously interesting, which is called non-hallucinogenic psychedelics. Let that sink in for a second. The therapeutic benefits of psychedelics without the trip, without the hallucinations. And for this, they're using AI-driven drug discovery. They're looking for compounds that hit the same brain receptors but don't cause psychedelic experiences. And here's the massive news. The National Institute of Health, the NIH, was so impressed that it awarded Atai $11.4 million by way of a grant. That's federal validation. The main target for this program is opioid use disorder or opioid addiction, which unfortunately is another massive market. So I hope you can now see, with 3 drugs in the pipeline and 1 discovery program, Atai is building a deep and diversified pipeline. But now let's talk about who's betting real money on Atai. First off, there's something really interesting about a lot of the stockholders for Atai. They're actually retail investors. This is quite unusual and shows how this company captures the public imagination. But apart from that, Cathie Wood and her ARC-G ETF have been loading up on shares. The last time I checked, they had about $18 million worth of Atai shares. And when Cathie Wood backs you, retail investors and others pay attention. Headlines get written. In fact, we recently saw the billionaire biohacker Brian Johnson tweet about the breakthrough therapy designation for BPL. And Peter Thiel too. He's backing the company. He's the guy who co-founded PayPal and Palantir, and he was Facebook's first outside investor. Not only that, but his fellowship program awarded Vitalik Buterin $100,000 to work full-time on what would eventually become the Ethereum blockchain. If there's one guy who seems to understand the future, Peter Thiel seems to be that guy. So, these are some serious, sophisticated life sciences investors who know how to read clinical data. Okay, let's talk money. In Q1 2025, Atai raised $59 million through equity financing. Then in July, they closed another $50 million private placement. Capital just keeps flowing in. Even more recently, and very significantly, in October 2025, Atai priced a major public offering. They sold 23.7 million shares, priced at $5.48 each. The total gross proceeds of that is about $149.5 million before expenses. Now they're going to be using that capital to advance their clinical programs, specifically to fund phase 3 and perhaps more phase 2 trials, and continue developing their own pipeline drug candidates. In my view, this is smart timing. They raised capital right after the FDA breakthrough therapy designation, which was really good news. And that positive news gave them more leverage to raise money at better terms than a year ago when the stock price was lower. Okay, so they've raised some money, a lot of people backing them. What does this all mean? The hard question is, can they survive long enough to get drugs approved? Because if there's one thing you need to know about biotech, it's that clinical trials are very expensive, and biotech companies burn cash fast. Let's look at the numbers honestly. As of March 31st, 2025, Atai had $108 million in cash and short-term securities, short-term stocks. By June 30th, that had dropped to $96 million. So we can infer that basically the quarterly burn here is about $27 to $28 million. That's how much they use roughly every 3 months. And with the recent fundraising, Atai have said publicly that they're funded into 2029. So this should be more than enough to see BPL through to an approval decision either way. The question is though, is Atai managing its finances well? In May 2025, Atai paid off $21.8 million in debt to Hercules Capital. And by doing this, they saved $2.1 million in future interest. And I think that that's smart treasury management because it reduces their quarterly burn. Now, any single catalyst, like a trial result or another breakthrough therapy designation, could trigger more fundraising, but at much better terms if the stock price remains elevated. Atai could also land partnership deals or licensing agreements or even early milestone payments. The clock is ticking, no question, but they've got runway to execute their plan. Okay, let's walk through what's coming and what I'm looking out for. We've got breakthrough therapy designation. There's going to be more data released in relation to BPL later this month in October. We've got an end of phase 2 meeting for BPL with the FDA. This meeting is crucial. And we've got the merger with Beckley Psytech closing shortly. In 2026, BPL phase 3 trials begin. That's the big one. And we're going to get more data in relation to VLS and EMP if they hopefully start enrolling and treating patients. If the phase 3 for BPL goes according to plan, we could be looking at an FDA approval decision by late 2027 or perhaps 2028. That's when Atai could transform from being a clinical stage company into a revenue-generating commercial operation. There's also the possibility that Atai could do a partnership or even sell its programs to a larger big pharma company, for example. But if you've been paying attention closely, you'll notice there's one thing I haven't yet talked about. The elephant in the room, the fact that the stock price is up 385% year to date. It hit a 52-week high of nearly $7 in October. The reason for the surge in stock price has been clear. Atai is going from strength to strength, releasing positive news after positive news. On September 23rd, positive BPL data dropped and the stock jumped 15% in a single day. Add to that the breakthrough therapy designation, the NIH grant, and the Beckley merger, and Cathie buying more and more shares. And you've got all the ingredients for quite a big pump in the price. Another thing I look at is how Wall Street analysts are analyzing a stock. Usually they give 12-month price predictions. I take these predictions with a pinch of salt, but let's mention them anyway. H.C. Wainwright has a $15 price target with a buy rating. Oppenheimer initiated coverage of the stock at $14 with an outperform rating. And the analyst consensus price target is around $11 to $13 for the next 12 months. Basically, people on Wall Street are pretty bullish about this stock. But I promised you earlier we'd also talk about the risks. And let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's be crystal clear. This is early stage biotech. That means risk. Massive binary risk. One failed trial, the stock could crater 50% or more in a single day. If the FDA has a look at the data and they want more, the stock could tank. If the company runs out of money, which I don't think is likely in the near to medium term, but if it does, then they could dilute shareholders even more by selling more stocks. And one thing about biotech that you've got to know is the volatility is absolutely insane here. Atai swung from about $1.50 a year ago to $5, then back down to $3, then back up to $5, all within a few months. But let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. The entire psychedelic medicine sector is heating up fast. A company called AbbVie just acquired Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals' psychedelic therapy with a price tag of up to $1.2 billion. That's big pharma validation. They're taking this space seriously now. And to my mind, the question isn't if psychedelics will transform mental health treatment anymore. The question is who captures the value and who becomes the winner. But of course, there could be multiple winners in this space, and in fact, I think that's likely. And for that reason, in future videos, we're going to talk about other psychedelic companies that I've been following too. But coming back to Atai, what's the bottom line here? I think Atai is building something real, something substantial, something that I want to vote for. They have positive data, they've got FDA breakthrough therapy designation, and they've got money. And remember the market they're targeting. 21 million Americans with treatment-resistant depression specifically. And remember what we said at the beginning, problems that scale can become fortunes that scale. But this is definitely a high-risk, high-reward play. I'm betting on clinical trials succeeding, on regulatory approval, and on flawless execution. And I continue to make this bet even after a 385% run-up. One thing I like to remind myself of is that timing matters for risk and reward, and you need to consider both. With the average Wall Street analyst rating being about 2x from here in the next 12 months, when I'm holding my position and probably adding to it in the near future, I'm thinking more long-term than just 12 months. I'm thinking about the next 5 to 10 years and what happens after approval if it comes. So, this isn't a set it and forget it investment that you check once a quarter. It's a story that's unfolding in real time, week by week, month by month. And the next chapter is being written right now. Okay, that's it for today. We've been looking at Atai Life Sciences. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.